When it comes to unannounced Assassin's Creed games, or in fact Ubisoft games on the whole, it's not a case of if it will leak before it's announced, but rather when will it leak? I'm not saying there has been a legit leak, I don't really want to get your hopes up in case that's not the case, why would I waste your time? But it seems like a recurring theme for every single Ubisoft game that before we see it on a stage or announced in a conference with an official trailer, we read about it in little posts found deep in the bowels of Reddit and 4chan. In fact, I think you could be forgiven for believing that Ubisoft would somehow adopt this into their marketing strategies, as that's either the case or Ubisoft is about as bad at keeping secrets as they are at avoiding hiring sex pests. Either way, when it comes to franchises like Assassin's Creed, we know what's coming before anything is officially announced, as that was the case for Valhalla, Odyssey, Origins, Syndicate, Unity, Rogue, Black Flag 3 probably, I can't remember that far back, but I'd imagine this is a pattern that's gone on since at least the dawn of the franchise, and so I have zero doubts that we will know what's next for Assassin's Creed before any announcement is made. And that being said, while legit rumours get about, fabricated ones do so just as easily, and so I like to be quite reserved when I use the word leak, because if it doesn't turn out to be real, then it's not a leak at all, is it? It's just a rumour that someone spewed online for attention. And it doesn't even need to be believable for there to be a buzz about it. For example, not too long ago somebody tried to pass off a screenshot from Shrek as something Assassin's Creed, and some people gobbled that up. You really can't make this shit up, can you? Of course, we appear to be in rumour season for Assassin's Creed. I mean, Valhalla's barely cold and we haven't even played the DLCs yet, but that definitely wouldn't stop a leak from happening because the next Assassin's Creed game is certainly in development already. And so this past week we got a couple of rumours going over where Assassin's Creed could go next in the form of these leak format things that you'd find on 4chan. But remember back to that screenshot of Prince Charming from Shrek being used as a fake Assassin's Creed leak? There are people out there who get off on fabricating shit for the sake of having this reaction, so take everything with a pinch of salt. The first rumour opens with Ubisoft Insider here. Yeah, I bet. Got my hands on a concept map of the upcoming Assassin's Creed. Mind you, there's this and there's also talks of making a game in the Middle East. Some info. Takes place in the Indian subcontinent again, despite already making a 2D game about India. It will include all of India, Bangladesh and a part of Pakistan. Aims to be larger than AC Valhalla's map. Takes place during the 17th century, likely to include the Taj Mahal. There is some emphasis on the British East India Company as well as the Dutch East India Company, going to be rival factions. No talks yet of naval gameplay. It's going to have a fully written female protagonist. You can't pick as which gender you want to play as. It's going to be exclusive to the newer generation of consoles, no intentions of releasing it for the PS4 or Xbox One. The bounty system is back, but each region has their own bounty system. So if you have a bounty in the Mughal Empire, which I pronounced horribly wrong, I'm certain of that, you won't bring it into Dutch India. Now with that we got this alleged concept map, and honestly, well, I don't tend to see concept maps for very much, but it doesn't seem to give you very much of an idea of anything. It's just a relatively simplistic map of India, which has been sectioned off with little settlements marked out. All it would take to recreate this is a simple template map of India and surrounding areas, and a little bit of graphic design skill, not even that much because it doesn't look especially great, so it really isn't concrete evidence of anything. To have a colonial focused India setting, I feel like the 17th century is also 200 years-ish too soon. And after Assassin's Creed 3, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag and Assassin's Creed Rogue, and by extension Syndicate with that running in the background, I think we've seen enough colonial games. Also at the bottom of this draft map it says draft map of Assassin's Creed 5. Considering the last numbered Assassin's Creed title was over 6 games ago, I think it's fair to say that numbered Assassin's Creed titles are a thing of the past. As to the point about a fully written female protagonist and you can't pick the gender, as cool as that would be to just have a set character, I think Ubisoft is pretty married to the concept of giving you the choice between male and female, and no matter how much you have to explain to them that that's just a band-aid for their lack of representation, this is a hill that they want to die on. I just doubt that Ubisoft would change their stance on that so swiftly. Also, if you remember the Chronicles games as mentioned by the post, I believe those games were made to touch down on settings that Ubisoft had no intention at the time of doing. At least not as far as AAA titles are concerned. You never know if it's real or fake, but I don't think this is real. That's just my thoughts on it. That being said, I have been wrong before, I just don't think I am this time. Would India be a cool setting for Assassin's Creed? Absolutely, but that doesn't necessarily make this real. Another rumour lays out an Assassin's Creed 2021 to 2022 roadmap, in a very vague sense, with a graphic that I don't understand why it needs to exist, but I guess it's eye-catchy, which talks a little bit about Valhalla DLC, but the final point is, Assassin's Creed Champion, which is the code name, is to be announced during E3 or similar presentations. And the game will be a classical European fantasy take on the series set in medieval France and Germany, which will supposedly be releasing in early 2022. Now, I don't necessarily believe that Ubisoft will want to get their flagship franchise and take it out of its usual fall release time frame because they'd be skipping out on the winter sales. So I don't think we'll ever see an Assassin's Creed game release in early 2022 or early any year. It'll always be towards the end of the year, that way they can earn as much in the winter season as possible, which is quite a lucrative time period really, whereas the earlier months of the year are much slower to get going and people feel less inclined to care about things like this because there are no sales or anything like that, and they're not buying gifts for anybody necessarily. As for a medieval Europe setting, is it possible for Assassin's Creed? I don't doubt that it is, especially in the RPG format that they're going for at the moment, much to my behest. But I think after the Siege of Paris DLC for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which will be set in France around a similar time period really to medieval France, I just get the vibe that they'll want to jump somewhere else. After all, the main reason why they don't do character sequels is so that they can explore a new historical setting, which they want to do every single game, so I don't think we'll see a similar setting necessarily. It'll likely be somewhere vastly different. The Middle Ages is quite a broad time period of roughly 1,000 years, and there's a lot to be explored in that. But I just get the vibe that Ubisoft will want to go for somewhere that's instantly recognisable, because in the end of the day, when it comes down to it now, the historical setting of Assassin's Creed games have become their main selling point, which is kind of what happens when you forego being an assassin in Assassin's Creed. I often get asked on streams, do you think this obscure historical setting would work for Assassin's Creed? And the answer is often no, because I've never heard of it. If the vast majority of people have never heard of a historical setting, then it's going to be quite a hard sell for a mainstream audience. Not necessarily 100% true if you had other selling points that drew people to your franchise, but when you've pissed all those down the drain, yes, there's a very good chance that it becomes reliant on the mainstream. So I'm not necessarily inclined to believe this rumour either. Again, I have gotten it wrong before. With Assassin's Creed Odyssey, there was a leak that basically gave away huge chunks of the game that I believed was fake. In my defense, it was utterly ludicrous, but then again, as was the game when it launched. So take all this with a pinch of salt. However, I will leave links in the description so you can check out these posts for yourself and come to your own conclusions. Not too long ago, there was a rumour that suggested that we'd be going back to the Third Crusade with Richard the Lionheart, basically the setting of Assassin's Creed 1, but if anything, that's the kind of ridiculous that I'd expect from Ubisoft in 2021. Now, as an interesting question to pose, where would I like Assassin's Creed to go next? This is the first time I've looked at it and gone, I actually don't know where I'd prefer to see. Not because there are so many good options, but because I can't think of any off the top of my head. Of course, with history, you'll never run out of ideas. That's ridiculous. There's always something. But for Assassin's Creed, I don't know. I doubt they'll do feudal Japan because Ghost of Tsushima was so good, and competing with that would be challenging, and Ubisoft loves to take the path of least resistance. I'd love a AAA Xiaoyun game in China, but we got Assassin's Creed Chronicles China, so that will never happen. But I would like to see a setting like that just the same for sure. For now, we've got the Valhalla DLC to wait for, and that's frankly enough for me. But I don't doubt that before we get an announcement for what comes next for Assassin's Creed, what the next AAA title will be, we'll hear about it via 4chan or Reddit, as we always do. But just be cautious and remember there are a lot of fake leaks getting about just the same. These two, are they real or are they false? I believe they're false, but only time will tell. Of course, come to your own conclusions if you want to by doing research on it and finding a more reliable source than me, as I'm certainly not that. I'm just chatting drivel and telling you exactly what I think about it. But be sure to let me know where you'd like to see this franchise go next down in the comments section. So, thank you all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to go ahead and leave a like, subscribe, share the channel with your friends and all that wonderful stuff. That'd be fantastic. And with any luck, I'll be seeing you all very soon with another video at some point. But until next time, take care. Goodbye.